We want to officially welcome Mary and Adam, and we appreciate you both sharing how marijuana has affected your life. We do have a small audience here to support and listen, and we ask them not to record or take pictures during this meeting, but Mary and Adam have agreed to let me record the meeting. The first part of the meeting will consist of Adam sharing his story. Please keep in mind that Adam is diagnosed with cannabis induced psychosis and is healing from a recent hospitalization. Due to this, you may hear things or words that might be uncomfortable. We ask that you not ask any questions in the beginning of the meeting, but we will open it up for questions in the latter part of the meeting. But I will filter those questions because we're going to keep Adam's well-being as the top priority. Adam has asked to share his testimony today because he wants other people to understand that marijuana can cause hallucinations and delusions. And in the past, he's been in denial about this. I've spoken to him and his mother prior to this meeting, and we've decided that this platform with a small group of people would be the best way for his first public testimony. Adam has also shared with me that he's working hard to figure out what's real and what's not real, and I acknowledge him for his hard work. I also want to acknowledge Mary's hard work and her dedication to her son. So we welcome all of you. We appreciate you all being here, and we appreciate your understanding, acceptance, and support. We ask that you all mute yourself and either keep your video on the whole time or turn it off the whole time, because I found when I'm recording on Zoom, when you make a change on your end, it'll flash to your screen. So we just want to keep the recording on Mary and Adam. So Adam, are you ready to share?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you could just start with us and describe what your life was like prior to using marijuana.
I mean, disclaimer, like my memory's still coming back, so I'm not gonna be 100% on this one. But before marijuana, I was kind of a like a rough kid. So we played really hard, and like we played with airsoft guns, sticks, and stuff like that. And I had a few close, tight knit friends. I had friends outside of that too, and I was kind of a social kid, but I didn't really have to be social, and things just came really easy for me. And with school, it was super easy. So I was a 4.0 student. I always got A's. I didn't really have to memorize anything. I would just learn it from the teacher and then put it on the page. It was really easy for me. Yeah, and I mean, right before I started smoking, I had a girlfriend, and I was, going after a job, and I basically had no worries or no problems, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and then how old were you when you started using marijuana?
I was 18, but that's one of those things, like I might have started using at 17, but I can't really remember. But the first time I remember using marijuana was alone in my room, and I bought a bunch of marijuana and kind of experimented to see how far it could go. And this is the spring of my senior year, and my grades were already pretty bad because I went into this college that was essentially like a grad school. So we worked on one thesis paper throughout the whole thing, and we did science experiments all the time, and we worked on a boat. And I couldn't keep up with the really, really smart kids. My teacher said something that like really brought me down. She said, the the biggest drop from GPA from your high school to your college was my high school, which was Salt High School. So we had the most inflated grades, if that's how you want to look at it. So basically, I was like, "What the heck? I'm getting 4.0s, not because I'm smart, but because I have inflated grades." And I remember my junior year of high school, which would have been my first year going to this, it's called the Ocean Research College Academy. And my first year going to that, my grades slipped up pretty bad because I was just having to compete with the super smart kids from the area because they kind of draw in the best of the best. And anyways, by senior year, I kind of just gave up, and I was like, well, I mean, why don't I just start smoking like all the cool kids? And that's what kind of drew me in. And I was like, well, I mean, that's what most kids do these days. They just kind of hang out and smoke weed. So I gave it a try, and it sucked me into my bedroom for nights on end. You know, I mean, it took me away from my relationships, and I was not really hanging out with friends as much. I was more kind of stressed out about everything. Uh, I mean, it really dug a hole for me to, you know, basically just lay and watch TV. It was kind of a terrible place to be, but
Adam, can you clarify, and maybe we need to ask your mom too to clarify, were you in high school taking college classes?
yeah.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. So then when you started using marijuana and during high school and you became isolated, did you feel like you were addicted to it at that time?
Um, I thought it was completely normal. I thought, you know, most kids do this all the time, and I didn't really see much of a difference in my behavior or my mental attitude, and it really was like I had mental illness and didn't even know about it because I was kind of maybe a lot shyer in school. It made me stop hanging out with my friends, and I mean, it made me not really enjoy life anymore. That's kind of the way that it kind of went, and I was just looking to party at that point. And that's kind of the route that I decided to go down, was the party route, you know. And in order to do that, you got to kind of harden your heart a little bit, and you know, just loosen the reins. Harden your heart, loosen the reins. That's what my philosophy gave.
Okay, and so it was really normalized to you, just like an everyday thing. And then you're in college. Could you share with us when your first episode of the psychosis happened?
Yeah. Okay. So the first episode, so I was kind of a stoner for the first few years. And what you do when you're smoking weed is you start to get paranoid about things that aren't really there. So I was dealing with psychosis pretty much the whole time, and it was like who's talking from where, and I was listening to people's voices that weren't in the room with me. So that's kind of how the psychosis started. But I didn't start hearing voices into my head until I did a bunch of Adderall one night, and so I did. This is sophomore year, right? So we're gonna skip over freshman year, which was it was a stoner year. I kind of hung out and I smoked weed and I played video games and I watched TV and I went to class sometimes, but I barely went to class, you know. And I was kind of just hanging out in the dorms most of the time. And then I joined a fraternity the second year, and that kind of drove up and ramped up my partying. So I joined the fraternity the second half of the year, and then sophomore year comes by, and I don't even remember when this happened. This is one of the things I'm gonna have to get back to, like meditation and stuff. But I don't even remember when it happened. I think it would have been the spring or the I mean it was probably the springtime maybe. And this is when I took a bunch of Adderall, and I remember talking to the spirit for a little bit, and it wanted to come in, and it was talking about how that it sold its soul to me or something like that, and maybe I sold my soul to it, and then it said that it's going to come in and it's going to bury me. And I was laying in bed, and the spirit came, and it was like all blue, and she came in and she said something about not doing drugs maybe, but then it turned into you need to do more drugs. I mean, it really was a temptress and a half. And I mean, it from that point on, it really took over my life. And you know, at first it was kind of curiosity. I'm so glad that I didn't end up staying with the hard drugs. And I just, I leveled out back down to the weed, and the weed kind of it caused a bunch of havoc for me because I couldn't really talk to anybody but that voice. For the most part, it became smoking weed and talking to the voice became my ritual and my daily bread pretty much. And I stopped going to class pretty much entirely. I hung out and I smoked weed and I waited for the next party. And that's who I became. And the drinking was involved too. So I'd be pretty heavy on the drinking. Uh, but it was the weed that really drove this thing because I'd wake up in the mornings and I would have to light up a bowl and smoke a bunch of weed. And it would ruin my days. I had days where I didn't talk to anybody, but I was at parties the whole time. I just hung out, and they're like, "Why?" They looked at me and they're like, "Why you keep talking to the sky? You're just talking to nobody." And then I had to be like, "Well, well, I didn't share my story with anybody. That was a significant point of it because I hid it as hard as I could." And this is the spirit of a girl who I saw on Facebook like one time, and I didn't even see her in person. And like there's some sketchy things that I feel like might have happened because she was at a party one time, but then like she never came back maybe. And I didn't see her live publicly until my senior year, and this was the beginning of the year. It was initiation week that I saw her. She was with her boyfriend from a far way away. I saw her and her boyfriend, and this is totally legit. Like I could vouch for this. I wasn't on any like hard drugs or anything like that, and like this is a day that I tried to take hard drugs, but they weren't real, and they kind of did nothing. It was like a placebo effect. And anyways, I saw her and her boyfriend. Her boyfriend was yelling at her, and I saw them from a far away. So I knew this was a real girl, and I saw her using the same talk that I use. So I put two and two together, and I'm like, this shit's real, right? And anyways, I just left the party because she had a boyfriend, and this is the whole time we're kind of having a love story, if that makes sense. And but she's obviously got other things going on that don't really correlate with what was really happening. So like uh comparing it to today, she says like one or two things to me, and then she, talks to everybody else like way more than she talks to me. So I'm not getting much of her talk or anything, if that makes sense. And that's one of the reasons why I got to drive her out, is because I don't receive anything good from her. It's all evil, if that makes sense.
So this girl, Adam, is a delusion, but you feel like she's a real person too at the same
No,
time.
no, no. She's an actual real person, and I actually met her at parties. I saw her at parties, I met her up close, but she never talked to me. So I would go to parties, and this is just on the weed, so I know it's real. And I wasn't blacked out drunk or anything like that. But there's a couple parties where she would hunch over next to one of my friends. I would come in and she would say, "He's the Lord. He's the Lord. He's the Lord," until I would go away because I would just be like, "You're so disgusting that I don't want to talk to you." And that's what she did, is she hunkered down next to a dude, called him the Lord, and said, "If you don't obey him, I'm gonna leave." And so I was like, "What do you really want, Nikki?" That's what I'd say to her. And she's like, wouldn't reply. She would just run away in her head. And so anyways, we this is a real girl, and I'm pretty sure the voice thing's real. Like if if we like there's lots of scenarios that'll happen, but I'm pretty sure it's actually coming from her. The delusions and stuff, most of them are connected to her. And uh but there's okay, so here's where it gets interesting. So I ended up, senior year was the year that I saw her in the thing, and I was just trying to like detach myself from everybody because I knew that they knew about it, so they weren't going to tell me about it in person, so I wasn't going to trust a liar, right? And anyways, I couldn't trust any of my friends. I was going wild. I was paranoid that we were going to get raided by the FBI. And it was literally a hell year for me. Like I had no family, no friends, and then the voice thing kept saying it was going around sleeping with all my friends. And so it made my life a living hell. So the voice really got engraved in me. And then it said that it was going to be friends with all my friends. And I mean, to this day, I don't really know what happened, but I could only assume that she was a drug dealer doing heroin with them all. And she had a husband, so she dated this guy that I saw at the one initiation ceremony that she was with, that who was yelling at her. And anyway, she stuck with that guy. So I don't think she was sleeping around with these people, but she was definitely in my apartment complex many times where I was trying to lay in bed and get some sleep. She was yelling out windows. She was bashing people's doors in. She was just acting all sorts of crazy when I was trying to sleep in my own little cell of a box thing at the apartment complex. But anyways, like I would go try and chase her down and she would be gone. And then my friends would act all nitty gritty like they just did something. They're trying to hide something. So it's literally her tactic was, get as close as she can to me, and then try and make me feel terrible because of what she's doing. And anyways, she tortured me for the rest of that year. They got into my cell phone a couple times and started yelling at me. And I remember this specifically. They had this all set up, and like it's the weirdest app ever. But once I started yelling back, they shut it off.
Okay.
And uh, anyways, like so the things that so that might have all been a delusion. I can't confirm any of that. But anyways, what I can confirm is later on when I'm getting to jobs and stuff, she's the only thing that she's saying is you got to stop vaping. Said everything else is okay, but you really got to stop vaping. That's my biggest no-no for you. And anyways, I ended up going to the mental hospital once where I stopped vaping, and she showed up at my workplace a couple days later. This is totally legit. She's in a black SUV, standing right outside of the black SUV, and I just walked past her because I couldn't deal with her BS. And this is a real girl, though. That's the weirdest part. And so she's kind of been stalking me ever since. I've been on and off jobs. I've been on marijuana most of the time, and that's why I couldn't hold down a job, and that's why her voice is allowed to get in, or at least was allowed to get in, is because my marijuana addiction opened. I mean, essentially, I want to say it's like opening a portal from hell. uh like you have this person who's spitting you the most evil stuff because they hate you so much because you rejected them or whatever. And I mean, it's one of those things that I feel righteous in what I've done, but she just looks terrible for what she done. Uh,
Adam,
because
that sounds awful that you were experiencing that and not knowing if it was a delusion or not. But when this was all happening, were you in denial that marijuana was causing these hallucinations?
yes, I totally thought it was the nicotine. That was one of the things that she got me with. One of the tricks that she comes up with is it's not the marijuana that causes the psychosis, it's the nicotine. So if you're gonna be smoking nicotine, you might as well be smoking marijuana. That's one of the things that she got me with. Another thing that she really likes to get me with is you can't be rich and famous unless you smoke the marijuana. And that's her lifestyle that she tries to sell to me. And at this point, I'm like, I don't want any of that crap. I just moved it all to her side, and then I'm gonna quit the marijuana, and I already did, and it's already over, and it's gonna take a few more months, but she's gonna be gone. She's not gonna be able to talk to me, and when she can't talk to me, what's she gonna do? Because I'm the only one that treats her good anymore. All of her friends know she's full of BS, and they don't even want to hang out with her anymore. So
So
I'm
Adam, when you first experienced the psychosis, you mentioned that you took Adderall that night. Were you blaming it on the Adderall that contribute to the psychosis, and you were in denial for a few years that marijuana was contributing to your
yeah,
psychosis? Okay.
I think so. The thing is, if I saw and read more cases about it, I would be a little bit more knowing of what's going on. But I don't know if you could get the strict auditory hallucinations with just marijuana. My assumption is that you need a little bit harder substance to get it in, but the marijuana keeps it going. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's kind of like a fire's burning of the psychosis, and then if you add the Adderall to it, it just was like ignited it even more. The way I understand it, but we do have people that understand psychosis much more than I do. So maybe in the end we can talk about that more. How many times have you been hospitalized for psychosis?
I just twice, right? Yeah, it's just twice, and then I went to jail once.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. So the hospital experience, um, it the first time it drove me mad, and the voices eventually they went away after a few days, but they keep coming in and checking on you. And this is with this is stop smoking marijuana, and then okay, so I was smoking marijuana when I went in, and then it's about takes about 3 or 4 days of healthy mindfulness to get the voices out, but they keep coming back tempting you. So you got the thing that I'm fully invested in is that if you stop marijuana for 6 months, they aren't allowed back in your life. That's what I'm invested on. If that doesn't happen, I'm gonna have to rethink it a little bit, maybe cut out the vape too and the caffeine and a few other things. But I'm fully invested with the idea that getting the marijuana out for 6 months gets the voices out for good. I don't think it's going to have to do anything with the nicotine or the caffeine because they aren't mind altering. They're more they aren't mind altering as much as the marijuana. I mean, they're supposed to be a little bit better for you in ways, but I mean they aren't good for you, but they don't make you trip out and hallucinate.
Yeah.
But
And so was it this last hospitalization that you finally started accepting that marijuana and I mean, I know you've gotten diagnosed with cannabis induced psychosis. Your mother has shared that with me. Um, but even though you had that diagnosis in the past and you didn't accept it, was this last hospitalization where you accepted that yes, marijuana is the main contributing factor? Now you've agreed to stay off the marijuana for 6 months.
yes, well I'm cutting it out for good. That's what I say. But anyways, so I was in Idaho and I brought marijuana into Idaho, which is totally illegal, right? And anyways, I smoked the marijuana in Idaho, and with all these factors pressuring me, with Nikki, she's stalking me, so she's right outside the house, and I saw her in Idaho too. And anyways, so I'm getting stalked, and I'm smoking weed, and my mind goes straight to hell. And I see her in a hallucination. She's getting crucified in front of a crowd of people. And anyways, I freaked out a little bit because I can't close my eyes anymore, or else I'll hallucinate that. But I can't stay awake because then I'm gonna go crazy. And I'm sitting in bed, and one of my best friends from high school's voice comes out, and I don't hear voices from other people that aren't there usually. But this is where they started popping out of nowhere. My friend from high school is telling me that he's gay and he's gonna have sex with another friend from high school that's a dude in my backyard. And anyways, it was the biggest hell portal that I've ever opened before. And it destroyed me and it made me go manic crazy. So I went to the stage concert that was near us and I started screaming my head off. And eventually the cops came and I ran, I got away from them. But I ended up going home and freaking out for a couple days, a little bit manic. I was sleeping, but then the last minute of it, I went a little bit crazy and was yelling at home. And then these guys called the mental hospital on me, so I went to the mental hospital.
I mean, your mom and your dad called for help.
Yeah,
You have a good mom and dad. Look it
right.
up.
I mean, it worked out at the end. Like I said, I'm done with the marijuana. It's stupid. It really just ramps up all the terrible stuff that's happening. It makes you paranoid, and can't tell what's real at this point. You know, what was the Idaho trip for her? Like, I mean, it's not that I really care too much, but I want to know because it's such a big part of my life at this point that it's made me crazy and it's brought me to hell and back. I mean, so yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm dealing with the psychosis. I'm telling her every day, you know, you aren't going to have this for very long. I'm not going to be talking to you for very long. You're literally not even going to be able to get it. And I'm 1 month sober. And I went to the beach the other day, and right. And I went to the beach the other day, and we ended up blocking the voice out. So, I mean, my psychosis was kind of with everybody on the beach, so I'm still kind of tripping. I hallucinate a little bit, but for the most part, we blocked her out for a solid 3 or 4 hours, and that's the longest I've gone with sanity. You know, I wake up in the morning and she's already bumbling in my face how I'm gonna die today, and, right? I mean, it's terrible, terrible stuff. And I'm like, girlfriend, dude, if you're thinking about that stuff so much, you need to, you know, get help or something. And I mean, her claim is that they're clean and sober, and that's the only reason why she's going so bad. But I doubt that. You know, I've heard she's on really hard drugs. I've heard she's smoking weed, so that's why she hallucinates so much. But anyways, what I'm working on is getting the hallucinations out, because what happens is she'll want to come in. She'll be like, "Hey, can I come in?" And since I've only been 1 month sober, I can't say no. I'll be like, "Sure, whatever." And then she gives me a hallucination where she's either coming to my door or trying to have sex with me or something like of that nature. So I mean, it's really gross in nature, and it really freaks people out. So it's something that I've been working on driving out uh, through the marijuana, not using marijuana, and that's the thing is I just got to stay off the marijuana, and I mean eventually it's going towards zero. So it's kind of like a wave. So what she'll do is she'll get really mad, and then she'll get really happy, and then she'll get really mad, she'll get really happy. And I'm stable, so I'm like a pretty high energy too. So I'm like up here a little bit. I don't really get depressed anymore or anything like that because I'm not using. And I mean, it feels great because I'm on my meds and everything, and it feels really good because I'm not using. But for her, she goes through a cycle of, I mean, I guess it's actually my cycle too. It's like a come home, you should be here, and then it's like, oh my gosh, you need to leave. This is terrible and it's so unhealthy. And then she's like, why do I need to leave? And I'm just like, because you won't come home, you know, because you won't come back to me or anything like that. And then she's like, well, I'm never gonna come back to you if you're using. And then I'm like, well, I'm never gonna use again. And then she's like, well, what are you gonna do about that? I'm like, I mean, it's all we got's time, baby. And like, and then we kind of like argue like that. But eventually, the marijuana's out already, and eventually, I can tell what's gonna happen is she's just not gonna be able to talk to me. And if she is going out and stalking me in real life, she'll probably be curious to what I'm doing and what I'm trying to say. So then she'll come over. But if she's not stalking me in real life anymore and she loves her husband again, then I'm just gonna move on with my life. It's gonna be so easy for me to move on.
Well, Adam, I am so impressed that you are working so hard to get rid of the voices, get rid of the hallucinations so you can find that peace. And that was like really amazing to hear that you had that 3 or 4 hours of peace when you were at the beach with your family. And I hope you have more moments like that, and those moments get they're with you more and more. And I, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing this with us. It takes a lot of courage to be very honest with what's going on with you, and how marijuana has you know, really caused you a lot of pain. So I can say that, and I probably could speak for everybody on this call, that we totally support you in your healing and your recovery, and we're so glad that you've decided not to use anymore. And I'm also really glad that you have a really supportive mom who's by your side. So I don't know, do you ever ask her what's real and what's not real when you're having those confusing times?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, and like I said, dude, feel free to ask me questions. I'm open to skepticism, but this girl has, I mean, I have real evidence of her messaging me on Facebook.
Sure.
So this girl's real, and she has the same mental disorders. She admitted to it, and this is like,
Well, the good news is we get to focus on you. I think that's the best thing. Every day, each minute of the day, think about you and what's best for you and what's going on with your family. So if you're getting distracted by it, I know you're developing those tools to keep the focus back on what's healthy and safe for you. And so I just keep encouraging you to do that. And I know you've got doctors around you too that are guiding you and doing that. And let's ask your mom a little bit of questions now. Mary, did you want to add anything to this?
Um, um, not really. I mean, she is definitely a real person.
Okay.
But all the interactions that he's having with her, I know he feels like they're real, but I believe that they're, uh, hallucinatory.
I mean,
So
I could show you her Facebook messages.
no, I
Oh,
know.
I 100% believe you, Adam. I do. I 100% believe you.
So, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, I'm fine, but like, so I saw a girl that looked like her yesterday, and I approached this girl, and I was like, "Are you Nikki?" And she's like, "No." And I looked at her straight face to face, but it didn't really look like her. So I mean, it's kind of funny, and it's like I'm recovering, and like I'm meeting all these girls that kind of look like her. But so I mean, that's kind of what it is. But the Jeep moment, I remember very vividly going to parties 2 times when she was with 2 of my brothers, and she wouldn't let me into her headspace because she was so consumed with the dude. She was like this, and she stayed like this during the whole party.
Oh, wow.
And I remember those vivid moments, and I hate her so much for doing that. I really do, because for me, I go around meeting everybody at parties, and that's my goal and mission. But for her, it was staying with the dude that she's with and going like this and whispering in his freaking ear. It was so disgusting that it threw me off of her, and it made me. I mean, it gave her the worst image that I've ever had of anybody ever, and that's what she is right now. And I tried to save her, but it's so tough to do. Uh, it's really tough to do.
Yeah, like I just encourage you to keep focusing on yourself, think about how to take care of yourself, which is easier said than done, right? Even with or without psychosis, right? So I know
Yeah,
I'm just like really impressed that you're really sharing these, I mean, like really scary moments. So
right.
I
I'm an open book. I'm down to share pretty much anything. But like I said, like I don't really remember the 2 years of college that I went through because it wasn't only the marijuana, I was drinking a lot too. So the alcohol made me forget things. And it wasn't short-term forgetful memory, but it's long-term forgetful memory. And that's induced by the marijuana. So as long as I stay off marijuana, which I'm confident that I will this time because I got such a negative disdain for my last trip. I don't want to see people getting crucified in a hallucination. It's the worst trip you could possibly have.
yeah,
And
sounds like it. Is
right,
it is it okay if we open it up for questions now, Adam?
yeah,
Okay, I did receive a question over text, and if anybody wants to ask a question, you can put it in the chat or text me. Um, uh, you talked about going to jail one time.
yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about that?
So this is what I was using at home. So I would go to the garage and I would be smoking dabs, which are a high concentration of marijuana, and I would be drinking a lot. I wasn't using any hard drugs at the time that I went to jail, but I was drinking a lot and I was smoking a lot, and these voices were telling me that everybody in the world was watching me, So I was in full belief that everybody in the world was on camera watching me at this very moment. And they said, what are you going to do about it? You know, and they kept pushing me and pushing me. And eventually I was like, I'm going to go out and, you know, I'm going to destroy things because you guys are so freaking annoying. So I went out with spray paint and a hammer and went and tagged a bunch of banks and then spray painted a Walmart and then threw a hammer through the window. And like, I know that it was just paranoia from the dabs, and I mean, well, I mean, it was a combination of mental illness and substance abuse. But I mean, what was going on through my head is everybody's watching me, so why shouldn't I, you know, pay everybody back for watching me? And this is something that I still kind of struggle with. I always think that I can talk to anybody I want just by talking in open air. And that's, I mean, it's super toxic belief to have, but I mean, it's slowly going away, coming down from the marijuana.
You know, I'm just so impressed with you, Adam, because when you had named your hallucination or your delusion, I have a loved one that had a name for his too. So I see similarities in yours experience. So I think you speaking out will help other people understand that it's real. I mean, especially to you, you know, and that it can be really scary and have really devastating consequences, like ending up in jail, you know, and not knowing and forgetting things. I think that sounds scary too, to forget things. So does anybody in the meeting want to ask Adam a question or Mary a question? Okay, we've got Bart and I think Dr. Miller too. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Miller, ladies first.
Yes, Adam, thank you for your vivid description of what you've gone through. The question I have is, in the beginning, you were describing when you first started using marijuana, you lost sort of social confidence. I thought I picked up on that you were kind of using it to party, but on the other hand, it made you lose your ability to really interact with people and you were losing confidence. And this is something I've read about happening, but I just want to verify that that happened somewhat early on with you.
Right? Yes. So even I can tell you, even when I stopped smoking marijuana for one day and I started just drinking the beer, I would have a social butterfly effect and I would just run around the party meeting everybody and having a good time. But if I smoked the marijuana, I would sit there and I would talk to the voice that was in kind of the left corner of the room. And I would sit there and I would just talk to the voice and unable to do anything. I kind of had to have the voice going along with me. But I mean, this is kind of the small rooms that were people that I knew, and I knew they were kind of all kind of jackasses. But anyways, like I would just kind of sit there and then I would kind of venture out on my own or do something else. But it would be so hard to meet people because with the marijuana, you can't look people in the eyes for very long. You smoke the marijuana and you gotta kind of bow down to them a little bit like this, and then you kind of shut off everything in here, and you kind of just kind of roam around like this. And I use my inner voice a lot, which people shouldn't be able to hear, but maybe they do. I don't know. And anyways, like I would kind of sit around using my inner voice, trying to communicate telepathically with these people. And I would not say anything until everybody shut up. And that was like kind of my vibe. And it was terrible. It was angry, and it was just a hard person to be around. So I totally understand why everybody started blocking me out and everything in my original friend group. But
And now
yeah,
you're doing much better. Are you doing much better now in terms of social interactions?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I went to the beach the other day and I talked to like 20 people. You know, I didn't even know them. So like I was just hanging out and like people would be showing up and I'd be like, "Hey, how's it going?" I wasn't drinking, I wasn't using any substances, just well, I mean nicotine. But I mean I was just hanging out and I would talk to everybody. That's how I am naturally. So I freaking love getting back there. but it's still going to take it's right. I mean, it's still going to take some time because I still have the voice and I still have the hallucinations. So even when even like so um yeah, I mean, that's one thing that I worry about is if it doesn't go away in 6 months, then I'm gonna have to drop, a lot of other things too, and I'm gonna have to work way harder. But I'm pretty confident that it's just gonna disappear within 6 months. And I'm pretty confident that it's just the marijuana that ramps up your thyroid, it ramps up your inner voice and your outer voice. I mean, it ramps up everything to kind of, it's a terrible cocktail to have when you have
Yeah.
bad things going on in your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Bart,
Yeah.
would you want to ask a question?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Adam and Mary, for being here. Really appreciate it. This is amazing. So Adam, do you go, or have you ever gone to Marijuana Anonymous?
So not yet. I
Okay.
think I need to get the voice a little bit calmer. I mean, the main thing is when I'm with people that are, not using and never think about using, it's fine. But if I go in a room with people that use a lot and have used a lot and also kind of want to use,
Oh,
then
right.
the voice will take hold of that and be like, well, look at all these people, they want you to use. And then I'll be like, well, shoot, like, I don't want to use still, but then it's risking a lot for me to hang out with people that are, stoners or ex-stoners, and I mean, but I will be joining the community eventually when the voice kind of dies down and I get to share my story, because I do love sharing my story, and it's a super interesting one,
Oh yeah, it's fascinating, and you're helping all of us. And anyway, I'm involved with an organization called Maranon, who what we do is we are family members of people that are having problems with marijuana, or loved ones. It's called Maranon. So we have a support group, and you've helped me so much just hearing your share right now. And but that totally makes sense though, to stay away from any of those addiction 12-step programs for right now. Thanks.
I mean, it shouldn't bother me too much, but I mean, if I get put into a room where I can't leave and I can't like do things like that, that's also kind of my brain's so small right now that I have about like 30-second attention spans, like my inner voice won't shut up. So my inner voice will just keep on going and keep on going. I got about 30 minutes of attention span. And so if I have to like sit there, then the voice will come in and it'll be like, oh shoot, like she has some really good temptations, and she'll be like, why don't you try and smoke with these people, because they would be good people to smoke with.
Right.
And then I'll be like, what do I do? And then I won't end up smoking. But what I'll do is it'll ramp me up in other ways and make me kind of do terrible things, and my inner voice might be mad at him or something like that. And the outer voice kind of gets mad at him. So, I mean, it's something that, so I've never made 3 months since I started smoking. I've never actually done sobriety from the marijuana for 3 months. So that's one of my new milestones. Is last time it was 2 months, and she was not there throughout the day. She just came in little snippets. So that's something that I'm looking forward to. But after 3 months, like, she could be gone in 3 months. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Great. I'm really proud of you, man. You're doing great.
Thank you so much.
How old are you now, Adam?
I'm 25.
25. Well, you're very well spoken. So you're really explaining things well, and I appreciate it. Did somebody else want to ask a question?
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Couple comments. Hi, Adam. Thank you so much for sharing your story and being so truthful to us. I really appreciate that. And I just wanted to say that, my brother, he lived under a freeway or was in jail for a decade. And one of the reasons that he slept underneath the freeway was he felt it was the only place the cameras couldn't find him. So this was a part of his delusion. And so when I heard you saying that you felt like everybody in the world was watching you through cameras, it was that was a similarity. I wanted to point that out. And
Right? Oh, thank you so much. I mean, that's huge because as long as I know that other people are experiencing the same thing, I know it's not actually happening, you know, because I never saw that person experience it, then it's never happening to me. But it's just one of those things that if I took a hit of marijuana right now, it would come back instantly and I would be screwed, you know. I would be thinking that they're gonna be watching me again, and I would be hiding out from my parents. I would be a terrible person to be around. But I mean, I'm still a terrible person to be around, let's be honest. But like, I'm getting back to that point where I could have calm, mindful relationships, if that makes sense.
yeah,
That
Right?
is,
it does.
Right?
when I don't think you're a terrible person. I don't think your mom thinks you're a terrible person. But sometimes if you're having a manic episodes where you're talking a lot, I remember those days with my loved one, and it's hard. It's kind of hard. So she has to cut off the conversation. It doesn't mean she doesn't love you. It's just that she's tired. So it's part of the process of healing and going through it all. And it just, you know, so I know that I spoke to your mom too, that you guys have decided that your healing process, you got out of the hospital a few weeks ago, and then you're going to spend the next 2 or 3 months with your mom at home, and you guys are doing all kinds of fun stuff like hiking and stuff like that. And I just really want to, I'm just very encouraged by your relationship with your mom. And I have this sense that when you are struggling, you know who to turn to, you know, for help, and you have that ability to say, I need help right now. And I just recognize that.
Right? Yeah, I can't thank her enough because I mean, it's something that I need, is to always be around somebody that is you know, a perfect match for me. I mean, eventually I'm gonna get a job and everything, which I should point out. Like, so it's been a month, and I got a job interview, and the only reason why I failed is because I didn't. So you have statistics, right? Which say, you know, it's a quick percentage, like um, the ace people's houses are, you know, uh, are on average like 75 degrees or something like that Fahrenheit. And then the only reason why I failed is because I didn't look up what statistics were, and I thought they were probabilities, which is like, if 75% of households have this temperature, what would the probability be that 95% of them buy AC units? And so it's basically an addition to statistics. So I was just spouting off probabilities, and I couldn't for the life of me remember what a statistic was. But I should be back in the job life pretty soon, so I'll be busy again, and and like I said, there's no way I'm going back after seeing what I saw. Like, I'm just not gonna go back to the weed life.
That's awesome to hear. That is so awesome to hear. And give yourself time to heal. You know, don't push it. I mean, you know, I mean, here I'm speaking for your mom, like, you know, whatever. But, you know, I mean, I really think it takes a long time to heal from marijuana, at least with my experience with that when I've seen my loved ones. So really, you know, take that time for yourself. I do have a really good question here that one of the members of the meeting here said. Her question is, what is your most urgent message to people who are thinking about using marijuana?
Um, let's see. So
Would you recommend that people use marijuana?
I would say, you know, I would just throw them a statistic and say 95% of marijuana users don't enjoy going to work in the morning, right? So if you smoke the marijuana, you might start to believe everybody from your office is watching you. And you're gonna have to be mindful of that everywhere you go. So if you don't want to have to be mindful of that, let me tell you, it's like being thrown into a prison. So if you don't want to have to be mindful of that, don't smoke the marijuana. You know what I mean?
Good
I think
advice.
that's the biggest thing for smoking the marijuana is you're gonna bring evil spirits into your house. You know, whether or not you know what's happening, it's just gonna happen. So don't even use it, because the good life, the family life, the home life, and all that stuff is way more worth it. And yeah, and this is like yeah, I'm super excited. Right?
This is awesome.
Hey, I have a question.
Sure.
Adam, you mentioned that you're hiking with your mom, and I'm wondering if you notice when you exercise like that, if the voice goes away, if you feel better. What effect does exercise have on your mental state?
So it's great for me. It really is. So hiking sometimes, well, going into public is pretty tough, but because what she does is she says that she's gonna meet me these places, and she wants me to go on wild goose chases to, you know, look down weird roads and look and see if she's over there, and it destroys the mental state. But if I'm exercising the whole time, if I'm talking to moms while exercising, you know, it can be light exercise talking to moms, she goes away. So it really does help. But in order to keep that pace all day, it's a super tough pace to keep, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's not necessarily a lasting effect then. In other words, if you go for a hike, she's gone while you're on the hike, but when you get back, it's...
Oh, exactly. So she's really good at bringing you down.
Mm-hmm.
So whether or not you had a good hike, you're gonna feel bad about yourself afterwards because you went hiking and you didn't find her. You know, that's her main thing, is you didn't find me. So I was out there the whole time. So that's gonna stress me out exponentially. And I mean, the main reason why I use nicotine is because I get so stressed out because I have hallucinations that she's gonna be somewhere and that she's never there.
Mm,
Oh, gosh, tough.
tough, yeah.
But it sounds like you're in a program that's going to cure it. So stick with the plan.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if this actually works out and it was just the marijuana supplying the voice and everything, and then she kind of goes away and I don't get auditory hallucinations anymore, which, I mean, it should. That's what everybody's saying. If it actually works out, I'm going to be going crazy happy, like exponentially happy. I'm going to switch the rest of my lifestyle around, and I'm going to change for the better and just keep changing for the better. And I'm just not going to stop.
We're going to be crazy happy for you too, Adam. So we should probably do like a follow-up meeting or something, you know, so we can check on you and see how you're doing. You can fill us in. I know Jay wants to make a few comments.
Yeah, Adam, I just want to say, you know, I mean, I admire your courage, but I want to reiterate what Aubrey said, is that, you know, be patient because it takes time for your brain to heal. And the other thing that I notice is you think that, you know, it's sort of like these are all singular experiences specific to you. But if you read the literature, and there's much of it online, I'd go to PubMed, and they have a lot of free articles. You can just put in, you know, marijuana or cannabis with psychosis, et cetera. And you'll see that what you're experiencing is in a lot of these studies. It's happening to a lot of people, thousands of young people, maybe millions, whatever. I don't know what the number is, and they don't know what it is, but it's a lot of young people. So just be patient, and I just feel confident that your brain will eventually heal and you'll go on to bigger and better things. I just saw this video on YouTube that I sent to Aubrey last night about he's actually a pharmacist now, but he talked about using cannabis to, you know, in bipolar disorder that he had when he was 17 years old, and he was in pretty bad shape, but he got out of pharmacy school. So don't give up on your dreams. That's all. That's the only comments I had. Just don't give up.
Right. What's that resource that you're talking about that people shared their stories on?
Well, not so much stories, but it's scientific research papers. It's if you just go on Google and put PubMed and PubMed, and it'll
Oh,
be a
cool.
governmental website, and there's a box for search terms, and you just put in, like marijuana and psychosis, and it'll come up with hundreds or thousands of papers that cover that topic. And then you want to click on the box on the left. They have free articles, because the other ones, if there's not free, it'll just be the abstract. You usually got to pay a sizable amount of money to get the article, but there's hundreds of free articles.
Oh, awesome. Thank you
Adam?
so much. That's going to be helpful because I'm actually having a hard time finding legitimate research. Like a lot of people are saying just outrageous things about it. And but thank you so much.
No, well, I mean, Dr. Miller may be able to even expand on it, but if you just put in, I think marijuana in the PubMed, I think there's over 30,000 publications. So you can fine tune that by putting in 2 search terms. I'm not an expert. I'm sure Dr. Miller's a lot better at it than I am, but it's got quite a bit of research. But make sure you click on the free ones, because then you can get access to the whole study, and it'll be an eye opener for you to know that this is not just happening to you. And the studies go back to the 80s and late 70s too. It's really nothing new. So that's all.
Thank you so much. I'm going to be
Just hang in there.
What I would recommend at this stage of your recovery, since you're on a positive route here, is to actually look for articles that talk about recovery. So I would put in that search term, because and also maybe case reports and recovery, because then you'll get, in case reports, you get the real nitty-gritty of what happened to each individual person. They'll go into lots of detail, whereas if it's an article about 1,000 people, they don't go into that much detail about any particular person. And so I think case report and recovery, marijuana psychosis, you might find some hopeful stories, which I think would be very helpful.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll dive deep into that. That sounds awesome.
And I can send your mom some of those really positive outcome stories. The one Jay was just sharing about, I can text you that video where that pharmacist talks about his episodes during his marijuana use. I think we have Sally with her hand up. She'd like to.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you both so much, Adam and Mary, and just make a couple of comments. I'm a mom too, and I want to point out to both of you, Mary, I know how scary it is for you, and how hard this is. And look, you're working on it just like Adam's working on it. And Adam, I just want to remind you that I know I just met you tonight, but I know how much your mom loves you, and that your mom knows you, Adam, the Adam before marijuana. And she knows what you can be again. And I just, it's your being together here tonight with shoulder to shoulder. It just, that's a big, powerful part of your recovery. And I also want to mention, I noticed you, Adam, kind of perk up when Heidi mentioned her brother, who had also had psychosis. And it was, I felt like you were feeling like, oh, somebody else has had this too.
Right.
But I don't think Heidi mentioned, but I'd like to let you know that Heidi's brother has been off of marijuana for, I think, over 5 years now. Heidi, 6 years?
He stopped marijuana many years ago because he moved on to cocaine and crack. And so he's been off of everything for about 5 years, but marijuana for much longer than that. And in fact, when my brother and I were using marijuana, Adam, it was like 5% THC. And so one time when he was using crack, it was several years later, one of his friends said, have you tried the new marijuana? And this is in Washington State. And he said, oh no. And he said, oh yeah, it's really strong. So he went and tried it. And he said it was like being on LSD. He couldn't talk to anybody. He was so profoundly affected by the new potent marijuana that was over twice as strong as he used to smoke. And so it's just want to emphasize how much stronger it was and that it had a profound effect on us when it was low potency. But for him to try the new one, I just want to let you know, I just feel for you being exposed to this extremely high potency drug.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, it's really terrible how high you could get off even one hit. But did your brother recover from the psychosis, or does he still have psychotic problems?
He does not have psychosis now. I can send you some videos with him on it because he's done webinars with us. And if you ever want to talk to him on the phone, he's on fire for recovery. So I can connect you guys. He loves recovery. He says that, I mean, he is so happy connecting with people, talking about sobriety. He says it makes him so much happier than drugs ever did. And so this is really keeping him, you know, on the path.
Dude, that would be so helpful.
Sure.
And that might be a resource when you're ready, Adam, too, with the Marijuana Anonymous. Your mom and you might want to contact them and just see if there's somebody who's recovered from psychosis that could sponsor you when you're ready, you know, because they will help you, relate to you, like Heidi's brother. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the next step. Once the psychosis becomes to the point where she's not always here, she's just here, you know, once or twice a day. That's when I'll be going to the Marijuana Anonymous, because I'm going to have to cope with, you know, losing my best friend. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not going to be fun, but that's just how it's going to have to work out, you know?
That's so interesting that you said it that way, because Heidi and I were doing an interview with a doctor who sees marijuana psychosis all the time. And he was explaining to some of the parents of these young people that are experiencing it that they have to be really patient with their kids because it's like losing your best friend because
Yeah.
they're so addicted to it. So you kind of grieve it, you know, after a while. So you have to go through like a grieving phase too.
Yeah, I really got lucky because I just had a terrible trip. You know, when you have a terrible trip, you really don't want to go back.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the solution is to get these kids off marijuana, but I know, you know, I don't know how it works, but I know for me it worked because I really, I mean, it was just such a bad environment that it freaked me out. So I mean, I'm glad that that happened to me, but I wouldn't want to put anybody through the same thing just because it was such a terrible time.
Well, let's end the meeting now, but I want to give the final word to Adam. Just a message for all of us and for anybody out there who's using. What is the core message that you want to share and you want us to understand?
Actually, for you guys, I think it might be, you know, you guys go around thinking that it's all delusion, but I'm open-minded to the point where I think it might all be real for me at least, and for other people, if their stories might be real. So go in with the kindred heart and think about it as if it was real, you know, and kind of open up like that way, you know, because the biggest struggle with my mom was she used to tell me all this stuff is fake all the time. So we never really got along until she started treating it like it was real, and then we became best friends, you know?
That is really good message for all of us because we don't understand how to interact when that's happening because we get so fearful. You know, you're probably scared and then we're scared and then, you know, we bump heads. So that's a really powerful message. What do you want people that are using marijuana and that might be experiencing psychosis to know? What message do you give them?
There's a direct link with the marijuana, the paranoia, the always being watched, the voices in your head. There's a direct link between the marijuana and the stuff. And as long as you stop using, which marijuana is not fun when you're having a bad time, as long as you stop using, you're gonna be okay. You know, I'm 1 month sober and my memories coming back, my dreams are coming back, and I don't have to worry about where I left my water bottle because I remember where I left my water bottle. You know what I mean? It's something so simple, but it feels so good to be able to remember things like that. And you aren't alone in recovery. So, but what I would say is, it, it might take about a month, but I think if you're, I mean, society will re-induct you. You aren't going to lose anything. For people are going to forgive you for using the marijuana. You aren't going to be a permanent terrible person. You just got to stop using it. It's as simple as that.
That is such a powerful message, Adam. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I know I could speak for everybody on this call, that this meeting, that we just really, really appreciate you sharing all this with us. I can't even say it enough. And we send you our love, our support, our prayers to you and your mom and your family. And we hope you continue to have those moments of peace and serenity. And yay recovery. Yay recovery. I'm a big fan of it. So
Wow. You're an inspiration. You're very inspirational. Thank you so much. You and your mom.
Well, thank you guys for listening. I love stuff like this. I love talking about it. I'm down to talk about pretty much any aspect. I can get into the nitty gritties if you guys really want to know. And right, but any day of the week, like I said, like we're pretty free over here. So anytime. I want to come back when I don't have voices in my head, so that I don't kind of sound all manic and I don't have to deal with her, like coming in your heads and stuff, and like have to be right. I mean, just a voice. She's like over there right now, over by the window. But
we wish for the only nagging voice that you hear is your mother's. So that's what we wish for.
Right.
Yeah, and Adam, I noticed your mom's pretty emotional. I think she's really proud of you. I don't want to speak for her, but Mary, did you want to say anything?
This is an answer to prayer, for sure. Like, I have not heard him talk like this. Yeah, and I've been kind of losing my faith. So this is awesome.
It hurts.
This is awesome.
Yeah, like I said, I'll be fine. That was the last straw for me. I'm done. I'm out of the game. It's not fun to be in the game.
Okay, we're going to hold you to that. And if you do have a slip up or something, I expect you to get real honest fast and let your mom know, so she can get you the help and the support you need right away. Okay, so honesty is the #1 thing, right?
Yep.
And,
Right. Yeah. I mean, I will tell you. I will let you guys know if I do have a slip up. It'll be yeah. I don't think I will have a slip up, just because like I was at the beach the other day. I mean, I wasn't drinking, so maybe if I was drinking, I might have wanted to use. But as long as I keep the drinking out of the weed people and the weed people out of my house, like I'll be fine. Like I don't think there'll be any problem there.
yeah,
I agree. Just don't be around it. Yeah.
Yeah, don't be around it and be honest. And that's the #1 rule. Like in my home, I host kids in recovery in my home. And when they're not being honest with me, I have to hold the line pretty hard with them. So I expect you to be honest with your mom, and we are gonna keep in contact, and you've got a whole support fans here. We're just, we're like your #1 fans.
Yeah.
So go recovery.
Yeah, love you, man.
Yeah, we do love you.
You guys too. You guys are great.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Mary, did you want to say anything else?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, well, we've kept you guys long enough. And thank you, Adam and Mary. And we love you.
Mhm.
Thank you guys so much. Love you guys too.
Thank you.
Love you. Take care.
Bye.
Great job.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.